So I'm super excited. We have another amazing night with Dr. Wallach. I'm going to have everyone muted this evening while we get started. Dr. Wallach is the absolute living legend. The reason that, I'm living the healthiest life that I can live, and my wife is living the healthiest life that I can live, and our future kids are living the healthiest lives they can live. We're so excited to have him here tonight. You can reach us at mineralmentor.info or reach out to me at 210-852-1352. Dr. Wallach is going to talk about the new information with COVID and then take questions from anyone that's here tonight. So if you're watching this on YouTube, watching a replay, just know that you can click forward, click back to find whatever topic you want to hear about. And we're going to get you going. Thank you, Doc, for being here. And it's all you, sir. Take it away.
Hello to everybody out there in Texas and in Colorado and the world. So appreciate all you guys and gals. And basically, there's good news and there's bad news about the pandemic virus. The good news is there's a fourth vaccination coming out. The numbers of infections and deaths are dropping. And that's the good news part. The bad news is the experts are telling us that they're expecting a big spike somewhere around April and May because there's all these various variants, if you will, other viruses that are 70% more infective than the original COVID and, quote, many times more deadly, unquote. They didn't give a percentage on the deadly, but many times more deadly. So let's just look at some history of this. We're into this about a year and a half, and there's things that we know. Number one, age has a big thing to do. It's one of those things that will affect your response to the pandemic virus. And before I get into that, I should tell you that the pandemic's been around since Bible days. They called them plagues in the old days. And the current plagues, AKA pandemics with the viruses, actually started at 3:00 in the afternoon, Monday, September 4th, 1882, on Pearl Street in New York City, in the bluff overlooking the construction of the Brooklyn Bridge. And that's when Thomas Edison and Jonathan Liebs pulled the switch in the first commercial electric generating plant. And within 36 years, we had our first major pandemic, the Spanish flu, 1918. Now, before that, we were getting the annual plagues, but we were getting wood ashes to put in our food and wood ashes to put in the garden, which were minerals. But when we went to electricity at 3:00 in the afternoon, Monday, September 4th, 1882, everybody switched over to electricity, and the wood ashes, the mineral supply, whether you're a billionaire, a merchant, a fisherman, a farmer, a traveler, a housewife, everybody was getting the same minerals from the wood ashes. But when they went to electricity, that all went away. And, they started getting funky feelings and emotional stuff and sicknesses they'd never seen before. And they go to their doctor, and the doctor said, look, these are all genetic things, because that was the birth of the genetics at the same time. The genetic thing came along about the same time. So if they didn't know what it was, they just blamed it on genetics, so they didn't have to know the answer. And they said, just eat well, eat more whole grains. And that was the worst possible thing they could have done, because when they told people to eat more whole grains, they started eating more wheat and barley, rye, and oats, and oatmeal for breakfast, and more bread, and more spaghetti, and pizza crust, and all that kind of stuff. It was big trouble. Okay, then of course came the polio. And then we had HIV, we had the Asian flu, and then we had the flu, okay? And then, of course, we had MERS and SARS and H1N1 and COVID-2, and then COVID-19. Well, in 2003, Dr. Mullen and I did a CD called Hell's Kitchen, because we realized it was the electricity that had started all this, and going away from wood ashes, which is our source of minerals. And then when the COVID-2 and COVID-19 came out in 2005, it was like 100 times worse than H1N1 and SARS and MERS. And so we came out with a book, and we really gave a whole lot of detail on the history of all these pandemics. Okay. And so then some of the stuff we learned was age is a big factor. When a 3-year-old gets any one of these pandemics, they have common cold-like symptoms for 3-4 days. And then after 3 or 4 days, they may get a temperature rise of a half a degree or a third of a degree. You couldn't even class it really as a fever. And after that, they have antibodies against the bug, and they're good to go. Well, this is from the Center for Disease Control. They came out with this just a couple of months ago. They said that people between the ages of birth and 3 years of age, when they get the COVID, it's a 0.06% chance, not even a tenth of a percent chance that they're going to die. When they're 18 to 44 years old, they have a 3.9% chance of dying. When they're 45 to 64 years old, there's 22% chance of dying. When they're 65 to 74, they have a 25% chance of dying. And when they hit 75, it's a 48% chance of dying. Okay, because they've been eating gluten for 70 years. Their intestines are dead. Those villi are gone. And they couldn't respond to defend themselves against the virus. And people say, well, what about the vaccinations? What about the vaccinations? Well, the vaccinations don't kill the viruses or bacteria or bugs of any kind. They just alert your body to the RNA and DNA of the viruses and bacteria and fungus and bugs. So when the bug shows up, your body, there's the bad guy. And they'll send the white blood cells and the T lymphocytes and the antibodies and red blood cells and all that kind of stuff to go and kill and eat the virus. Well, you couldn't do that because everybody's eating more whole grains. Okay, and their villi are gone. And very few people were supplementing back then. Doctor, I just eat well, you get everything you need. My doctor says I can get everything I need just by eating well. And everybody believed that. Well, what I did was I looked at the breakdown of who had what states had the worst record. California is the worst, and Texas is the second worst of all 50 states when it comes to the pandemic virus. Let's look at California. Okay, right now they have 3,536,793 infections and 51,000 dead. Texas has 2.6 million infections and 43,000 dead. Okay. Let's look at New Mexico. Okay, with 183,000 infections and 3,000 dead. Considerably less than 48,000 and 51,000 dead, right? Considerably less than 2.6 million and 3.5 million. So what's the difference between all these states? Well, California is 39% Hispanic population and 8% Black. Texas is 39% Hispanic and 14% Black. Let's go all the way down to New Mexico is 48% Latino and only 3% Black. Let's take another one here too. Let's see here. Let's see here, close to Colorado. Let's look at Arizona. Arizona has 31% Latino and 6% Black. They have 802,000 infections and 16,000 dead. So the people with the most Latinos and Blacks and the indigenous peoples, and those are 3 out of the top 5 people of the death rates in the United States. Okay, you find the death rates are more in the indigenous peoples, the Indian tribes, the Latinos, no, excuse me, I guess the Blacks were next, and then the Latinos. It's not a racial thing, it's a cultural thing, it's what they eat. So again, when you look at the New Mexico, they have 48% Latino and 3% Black. So with 48% Latino, okay, that's 9% more Latino than California. So why do they have such a low rate of infections, 183,000 and 3,000 deaths, compared to Texas with 2.6 million infections and 45,000 deaths? So what's the difference? Well, it turns out that the Latinos in New Mexico, even though they have the most, 48%, originate from Spain, whereas the Latinos in California and Texas originate from Mexico, South America, that kind of stuff. The ones from Mexico and South America live on wheat, barley, rye, and oats. The ones from Spain live on Spanish rice, frijoles, beans, maize, corn, potatoes. It's crazy, but that's the way it is. Okay, and so it's because they don't have the gluten to kill their intestines. So, and they're still putting wood ash. They're very primitive, so they're still putting wood ashes into their gardens, and that's why they have one of the lowest rates of deaths and infections out of the 50 states. This is, and I've got all 50 states. We're going to do an article and publish this here pretty soon. Okay. I've listed all the 50 states and went through Siri and found out the percentages of Latinos and Blacks and indigenous peoples in every state. And it goes with the number of deaths and infections. Okay. More deaths, more infections. You have a lot of Latinos, Blacks, and indigenous peoples. You have low numbers of infections and deaths, like the Asians. Okay. And I'll give you an example there. Let's look at Mexico, the classic Southern Latino from Mexico versus Japan. Both have about 127 million people. Okay. Mexico, as of this morning, had 2,084,128 infections. Japan has 429,000, about 25%. Mexico has 185,000 dead, 185,000 dead, almost 250,000 dead. And Japan has only 7,000 dead. Okay, well, the difference is, of course, Mexico is the classic Latinos, and they're living on wheat, bran, rye, and oats, use a lot of electricity. And Japan is the classic Asian country. They're living on rice and sweet potatoes and beans and maize and so forth. And they eat a lot of algae and also seaweed, which has a lot of minerals in it from the oceans. That's why we have the fucoid Z, the Z radical, and the ocean's gold for that. We originally designed it 30 years ago for what? Oh, goiter. But it turns out that it also gives your bone marrow what it wants to help build white blood cells and red blood cells and platelets and antibodies. So anytime you, let me give you one more comparison here. UK, United Kingdom versus Thailand, they both have 67 million people. UK is the classic gluten country. England, Northern Ireland, Scotland, and Wales, they have 4.2 million infections and 123,000 dead. Thailand, same population, 67 million people. They have 26,000 infections versus 4.2 million and 83 dead versus 123,000. Not 83,000, just 83. Well, what's the difference between Thailand and the UK? Well, everything that the English and the UK eat is gluten, wheat, bran, rye, and oats. They're the ones that took it around the world so all their sailors would have access to bread. Okay. Whereas Thailand, they're the classic Asian people. Okay. And they live on rice and sweet potatoes and beans and squash and maize and seaweed. Okay, just like the Vietnamese, they have 100 million people and they only have 35 dead from the COVID. They have 100 million people and only 35 dead and 2,000 infections. Classic Asian nation. They have almost four times the population of Texas. And of course, Texas has 2.6 million infections and 46,000 dead, compared to Vietnam with 100 million people, 35 dead and 2,000 infections. Gluten versus non-gluten. Okay, this is very clear. So here comes the, again, the bad news is that all the experts, when it comes to thinking about the COVID, okay, we got the 4 vaccinations, the numbers are going down, everybody's feeling good, they're throwing away the mask and not washing their hands every hour, they're hugging everybody and so forth. And the experts are saying between now and the middle of April, there's bound to be another big spike, okay, because people haven't changed their basic eating habits, they're still eating gluten, and most people do not supplement with vitamins and minerals, so their bone marrow is dead. And Travis, you know of people who go into the doctor once a month for a B12 shot and an iron shot because taking iron pills and B12 pills didn't help them with their anemia. Now, after a year or so doing that, that doesn't work anymore. So the doctor starts giving them a transfusion once every couple of months. And they get red blood cells and platelets from whoever they're getting the transfusion from. And they get tired of that. I don't want a transfusion every month. I'm sick for 2 days after that. You got anything else? Well, yeah, let's do a bone marrow transplant because you have bone marrow problems here. That's why you have all these problems with anemia and low white blood cells and low platelets and low antibodies. That's your immune system. And so you have your bone marrow has been replaced by scar tissue. So that's why you have to have a bone marrow transplant. No, get off of gluten, take the Healthy Brain and Heart Pack, 1 per 100 pounds of body weight. You throw in the MSM, take 3 twice a day per 100 pounds of body weight to help rebuild the bone marrow. Okay. And then you want to take the vitamin D3. That's why vitamin D3 works to help you with COVID, because it helps with bone health, which is where your bone marrow is at, which is what gives you your defense against all bugs. Okay, your bone marrow. And then you also want to throw in the killer biotic, which is take 3 of those 3 times a day because of this pandemic thing. You want to get your immune system up. I would also use our hand sanitizer, okay? Hand sanitizer from Longevity, and it kills everything. And then you also want to help, and I've been doing this for 40 years, long before the pandemic, right? But you want to take 2 droppers full of our colloidal silver under your tongue 30 minutes before each meal, and 2 droppers full of our colloidal silver under your tongue 30 minutes before bedtime. And you want to be lowering the population of viruses in your body and in your people that you're hanging out with. And so even if things are looking good, at the very least, take the colloidal silver and the hand sanitizer, but I would also give up all the bad foods, fried foods, processed meats, oils, and glutens. And I also want you to take the 90 essential nutrients so that your bone marrow can actually recover and make your defenses, make your immune system, make your red blood cells, your platelets, your antibodies, and your white blood cells. Okay. And so it's doable. And just the Asians prove that by their diets. And the Polynesians, of course, you know, the blue zones. Are you familiar with the blue zones? Yeah, the blue zones. Dan Buettner came out with that. He was actually on the cover of National Geographic magazine. I think it was November 2005. He created the blue zones, and people said, "Well, why do they call them the blue zones?" Well, he used a blue marker on the world map, and every place he could find where people live longer than the general world population, he'd circle them with a blue marker. And so when he started writing papers, he called them the blue zones. It's that simple, okay? But he made a big mistake. He looked at he said in his writings, in those articles in the National Geographic, he says, and remember, he's an exercise aficionado. He's a big exercise guy, okay? And health guy. And he says, I looked at their diets. I couldn't find anything really much different between all their diets and the rest of the world. And so I say that they live longer just because they're happy, was his view on that. Well, the reason why they're happy is because they're healthy. They live longer. They spend another 50 years with their great grandkids, kind of thing. That's why they're happy. It's not they live longer because they're happy because they live longer. Okay. So anyway, with all that, don't forget your products are at wholesale when you become a preferred customer and you get on auto ship, I will pay the shipping. Doesn't get better than that. If you sign up, you know, with our group here, okay, with Travis and his buddies, you sign up with his group that he's working with. And I'll let you name the people involved so I don't step on a landmine or something here. When you sign up with them and become an associate, again, you get the products for wholesale. You get on auto ship. Guess what? I pay the shipping. You'll save a lot of money if you get on auto ship because I pay the shipping. And then whether you're a customer or an associate, and if you become an associate, I will give you for free $500 worth of business building information, including your first website for free, $500 worth. And when you renew every year to maintain your longevity business, your franchise, if you will, I will give you another $500 free. Again, another website and another $500 worth of business building information. So you have distributors you can give that material to. Okay, to you, Travis.
I just love that. Thank you for all the new information. I actually had a really good question for you about COVID, and it's about the antibody testing.
Mm-hmm.
So people are starting to either get the vaccine and or have had COVID and have antibodies, but we're hearing about new strains. So if you have the antibodies, does that mean that you can still catch one of these other strains?
That's correct. And that's why you have to keep the load of the virus down by taking the colloidal silver 4 times a day, 2 droppers full 30 minutes for each meal, 2 droppers full, 30 minutes for bed. You have to use the hand sanitizer, and you have to take the 90 essential nutrients to make sure that your bone marrow is able to make everything to attack the virus, because these different variants are 70% more infective than the original COVID, 70% more infective, and significantly more deadly. Now, they didn't give a number. They just said, quote, significantly more deadly, unquote, because there's so many variants. And we're talking about the California variant, the San Diego variant. We're talking about the one from South Africa, and the one from Brazil, the one from the UK, which is one of the original variants. And I think there's about a dozen more have come along here. And they're really wreaking havoc with people who thought they were in good shape because they had gotten COVID, and but then they still got it again.
That's the answer that I thought you were going to give, because in the past you said it's kind of like a cold. Just because you have the antibodies doesn't mean that it can't catch up to you again. So I have a couple more questions, but I want to open it up. We have quite a few people in here, so
okay, let's do it.
Jump on, make sure you introduce yourself to Doc, and go ahead and fire away. We'll let you jump in, and don't pause for too long, because we'll skip you. All right, I'm just going to keep rolling then. And if someone has anything, just, raise your hand or whatever you want to do. So I had a good question from a potential customer the other day, and they were asking, they were worried that the Beyond Tangy Tangerine may have too many nutrients and that people could become overdosed. How would you respond to something like that? I know that it's perfectly formulated per body weight and our food is depleted, but is there anything more that would maybe calm someone that feels like it's different from what's on the shelves or something like that?
Well, when you look at something on the shelf, like a Centrum, let's just name one, Centrum. You have 27 nutrients in there. They don't even have a third of the 90 essential nutrients. When you look at our healthy brain and heart pack, it has 215 nutrients, including the 90 essential nutrients that prevent 300 different diseases. Many of them are reversible. Obviously a cleft palate is not reversible when the baby's born, but it's preventable 100%. Okay. And so if people are sexually active, particularly girls, they need to be taking the 90 essential nutrients for at least a year before they get pregnant. And then the risk of having a baby with a birth defect is significantly reduced, almost zero. But if you wait until you're 2 months pregnant, I better be taking some prenatal vitamins. Well, the baby could already have a cleft palate or Down syndrome or something, because you cannot get everything you need from your food. And of course, the doctors made a big mistake. When people started feeling funky, say 6 months to a year, 2-3 years after they gave up wood ashes and went to electricity, they go to the doctor for their annual visit. Doc, you asked me how I'm feeling. I'm feeling kind of funky, and all my joints are clicking, and weird things are happening and never had in our family. I've never had this before. What's going on? And he says, well, you might have a genetic thing. He says, well, we don't have that in my family. And so shouldn't I be taking some vitamins and minerals? Because they're starting to advertise vitamins and minerals, okay, on the newspapers and magazines and things. And the doctors all said, nah, don't waste your time on vitamins and minerals. Just eat well, you get everything you need. And so doctors are at the root cause, second only to Thomas Edison and Jonathan Liebs, for all these pandemics. Because they should have said, okay, you've given up your wood ashes, you've given up your mineral source you've had for 10,000 years. So now you need to start taking vitamins and minerals. Can you take too much? You cannot afford to take too much. In other words, it would cost you $1,000 an hour to take too much. Okay. And so it sounds like they were asking their doctor, yeah, don't take any of that, just eat well. Okay.
That's
no, that's why we do it by body weight. We do it by body weight. And so we know it's safe for you.
That's a perfect answer. Dylan had his hand up, so I'm going to let him jump in while I adjust my camera here. And go ahead and unmute yourself, Dylan.
What's going on, Doc?
Hi.
Dylan, been with Young Jody for over 5 years. Love it. I have a simple question. So 2 things. One would be for somebody who's looking to build muscle mass, because we talk a lot about losing weight, but like myself, I'm looking to actually build muscle mass, get stronger. what are some of the better supplements and products from longevity, and why should you think I should take them?
Okay, well, muscle requires, just for its metabolism, requires 90 essential nutrients. When you want to build more muscle, you require more of the 90 essential nutrients, okay? So if you want to do that, and of course, I lettered in wrestling and football in junior high school and high school, and lettered in wrestling in University of Missouri for 4 years. And so they wouldn't let me play football because I only weighed 110 pounds at the time. But I did get to wrestle for the university. And I was taking enough supplements for a 500-pound man. Never got injured, okay? Never had any problems. But I was very, very good, very strong. I was as strong as a 200-pound guy, and I only weighed 110 pounds because I was taking all those nutrients. And I was gluten-free. I've been gluten-free for 73 years. I've been taking the 90 essential nutrients for 73 years, okay? And since I was 9 years old, I started taking the 90 essential nutrients and was gluten-free. And so what you want to do is take you really want to ramp up on things if you want to, be a muscle guy, okay? Whether it's you're going to do it as a bodybuilder or just someone's strength, okay? Either way works. And so I would take 1 healthy brain and heart pack per 100 pounds of body weight. What do you weigh? What's your body weight?
I weigh 150 pounds.
150. Okay, so I'd go with 2 healthy brain and heart packs per month, full dose for everything twice a day. I'd get 2 bottles a month of our MSM, so you can take 3 with each meal. That's going to help you with cartilage, ligaments, tendons, connective tissue, skin, artery walls, vein walls. It's going to help you with your liver and your lungs and your heart and all that kind of stuff. Then I want you to have 2 healthy, 2 of the Ultimate Daily Classic tablets, 2 bottles a month. So you can take 3 of those twice a day. That's going to help you with circulation and also a good blood pressure. I want you to take 3 of our sweeties 3 times a day. That'd be 3 bottles a month. So you're going to, because you're going to be taking lots of carbs and fat and all that kind of stuff and dealing with it for calories and building, bodybuilding and so on, which I did. And so you need that extra sweeties so you don't develop type 2 diabetes, okay? And you got to be drop dead gluten-free so you can absorb all this stuff. Don't forget the collagen. We have the glucogel and capsules and liquids. We have the collagen peptides. I like to take the collagen peptides at lunch because it's from fish, poultry, sheep, and beef, whereas our glucogel is from beef only. And so I take 5 glucogel capsules at breakfast and dinner, and I take a dose of the collagen peptides at lunch. And again, don't forget the vitamin D3. I don't care where you live. Nobody gets naked and lays out in the sun for 4 hours every day. And usually in places with a lot of sun, they will wear big brim hats and put on skin sun blockers so you don't get skin cancer and stay in the shade. So even if you live in a sunny place like Florida and Georgia and Louisiana and Texas and stuff like that, the odds are you're not getting enough vitamin D3. So you have to supplement with it. We have a spray and we have capsules. And so let's see here. Oh, yeah. And you don't want to forget the Rebound or sports drink, which has 100 nutrients in it. Gatorade and Red Bull only have a couple of nutrients, and it's primarily sugar, water, and caffeine. Okay, and so it's one of those things where you're really better off taking the Rebound. I weigh 142 pounds now. I take 2 of those 12-ounce cans a day. Okay, and little ladies who are 100 pounds each, they should probably only take 1 of those a day, or a half at breakfast and a half at lunchtime kind of thing. I wouldn't take it after 3 o'clock in the afternoon if you're don't want to stay up late all night, because we'll keep you up all night. So I hope that helps you out there.
Thank you, Doc. One more question as a simple answer is, how do after you've convinced people obviously to take the 90 essential nutrients, what do you think makes longevity, the sourcing and everything, what do you think makes longevity the gold standard in the supplement world?
Well, the gold standard in the supplement world is in our main program, the Healthy Start Pack, okay? We have 75 minerals in there. All the others have 6 or 9. They have a total of 27 nutrients and 6 or 9 are minerals, okay? And they don't get it because all the other minerals are either structural or they're cofactors and biochemical reactions and enzyme reactions and so forth. And so you need all of these things. And that's why people get, I don't drink alcohol. Why do I have fatty liver disease? Well, because you're missing a couple of nutrients. Your liver does 40 different things. It has all these enzyme systems. And 3 missing nutrients will cause you to have fatty liver, even if you don't even say the word alcohol. Okay, so you need it all. And that's why the people who are the longest lived peoples on earth, and this is real, this was the basis of the book and the movie Lost Horizon that James Hilton wrote. The book came out in 1933 and the movie came out in 1937. And he was a reporter for the New York Times and also for the London Times. And he followed this guy around between Pakistan and China who was claiming to be 261 years old. Dr. Lee Chin Yun. And he followed him for almost 2 years. And took his fingerprints, and he was at a place, 100 years ago. His fingerprints are still there. Okay. And so kind of thing. And so then he wrote the book and wrote the movie. And the place where people live the longest is in Shangri-La in Pakistan. And everybody, oh, that's a mythical place. No, it's a real place. It's a valley in Pakistan called Shangri-La. And the people are called the Hunzas. Look them up, the Hunzas. Okay, Hunza. Okay. And they live near the Giltar Glacier, which grinds up these rocky walls. And all the water that comes out from underneath it has these 75 minerals in it, which they drink, kind of like our Icelandic water. Okay, our Icelandic water. They drink it, they cook with it, and they irrigate their crops with it. So that's why they live so long, because they're getting all these nutrients. I actually have a book called Immortality, and there's a CD that goes along with it, Beyond Immortality. And I go to all these blue zones and all these cultures and figure out where they're getting their nutrients. And they all live on rice and sweet potatoes and corn and algae. They're not wheat, barley, rye, oat eaters. They drink red wine. They don't drink Budweiser beer, which is gluten. Okay. So all that's in the book Immortality and the CD Beyond Immortality. It's in the book Black Gene Lies and the CD Black Gene Lies. There are no genetic diseases in anybody, including Black people. And then, of course, the book Epigenetics, in addition to Hell's Kitchen and the CD Hell's Kitchen, the book Epigenetics and the CD Hell's Kitchen, excuse me, the CD from Epigenetics. Bruce Lipton and I are considered the 2 fathers of the science of epigenetics, which has replaced genetics. That's why my thesis on my 20,000 autopsies for my postdoctoral fellowship, it was a $25 million grant from NIH. Okay. And the grant was given to Washington University, okay, Barry Commoner, who's the head of that, okay, and the guy who is the head of the zoo at St. Louis Zoo, Marlon Perkins, he and this Barry Commoner got this $25 million grant using my paper, which was the first paper on a mass die-off from pollution in the United States, and they used that paper to get the $25 million grant, and I was a pathologist on the project. So I hope that gives you some credibility.
Thank you. Wow.
Thank you so much, Dylan. Spread the word, brother.
Always.
He definitely does a great job with that. So if no one else has any questions, I have some interesting things that I've been thinking about for you, Doc. One thing that I noticed is that when you talk about chronic kidney disease or even like coronary artery disease, anything that's like organ-based, you always recommend MSM. And I know that's for, regrowing like connective tissue and that kind of thing. What is it about MSM that's good for kidney health, heart health, that kind of stuff?
Okay. Well, when you look at heart health and kidney health, some of the surgeries that doctors do on hearts is when you have coronary artery disease, the coronary arteries are plugged. They'll do bypass surgeries and put stents in the coronary arteries, right? Well, you don't only have plugged arteries in your coronary arteries, you got them in your brain and your kidneys and all this kind of stuff. Now, when I was a pathology student in 1961, I was just starting in veterinary school. I was just almost near my degree in agriculture school. And they're bringing me kidneys from people who are doing kidney transplants in, okay, because they didn't want to be on dialysis, so they did a kidney transplant for people that had kidney failure. They would bring me the kidneys, and I said, "Did you get these kidneys out of the right people? There's nothing wrong with these kidneys." "Oh yeah, these people, they've been in trouble for years." Okay, so I looked deeper and longer and made special stains, and sure enough, there was nothing wrong with the kidneys. but all the arteries in the kidneys that brought the dirty blood in to be filtered were plugged. Well, then the kidney would release a hormone called renin, R-E-N-N-I-N. You can look it up from Siri. Okay, renin. Okay, or the, was it Merck manual? And renin raises your blood pressure to help drive more blood, dirty blood into the kidneys. So I came up with the idea, why not do both? Okay, so I came up with the Ultimate Daily Classic tablets to give to people who have high blood pressure, who are on dialysis. And Travis, I take people who are on dialysis 6 times a week for 10 years. They have not peed, they have not urinated in 10 years because they didn't want to get a kidney transplant. They're on dialysis for 25 years total because they didn't want to get a kidney transplant. Okay, we put them on the program, and in 2 weeks' time, they're urinating. So they drop their dialysis down from 6 days a week to 3 days a week. And in 2 more weeks, they're totally off of dialysis. They're perfectly normal after 25 years of being on dialysis and 10 years of not peeing. Because I attack the actual root cause of the kidney problem and not just treat the symptom. Isn't that crazy?
That's incredible. That's absolutely incredible. Another big one that you and I haven't gotten a chance to talk about is I know we're talking about blood pressure with kidney disease, but blood pressure in general. Would you mind touching on that and how salt is related or actually unrelated?
Okay, well, salt has nothing to do with high blood pressure. Salt is required for digestion in your stomach. Salt is required as cofactors, either the sodium or the chloride as cofactors in many of the biochemical reactions in your body. Any doctor who tells you to restrict salt should be put in jail, okay, for being a serial killer, okay? And basically, that's what we have our Savor division. We have our division where we have all the healthy salad dressings and all kinds of things that, spices and that kind of stuff. Well, 2 of our most important products in our Savor division is our original pink Himalayan salt. And our pink Himalayan salt with ground up pepper in it. I use the pink Himalayan salt for breakfast on my rice and my eggs, my soft-boiled eggs. And I have pink sockeye salmon from Alaska, smoked. And I have those 3 eggs. I have the rice. And you still there? Yeah, I had to dump a call. Somebody's trying to call.
Yeah, you're good. We got you.
Okay, I'm good. Okay.
Yes, sir.
And so, okay. And it's one of those things where if you stay away from the bad foods and you can absorb, and you take your pink Himalayan salt, which I use for breakfast, and then I use the pink Himalayan salt with a ground black pepper in it for dinner time, a little spicier for dinner time, has 85 minerals in it. Now, that Himalayan salt came from oceans. There were millions and millions of years ago, and when the oceans went away, all that salt, okay, was piled up in these valleys in the Himalayan mountains. And that's where that salt came from. So it was originally sea salt. Okay. And so it's one of those things where, I probably go through 3 of those containers, those little containers look like hockey pucks, little containers. I go 3 of those a month myself, just myself. Okay. And I'm 82 years old. I don't have any pre-existing conditions of any kind. I had accidents. One accident in Canada. I have a little bit left over from the accident, but I don't have any diabetes or high blood pressure or heart disease or obesity. I don't have any of that kind of stuff. No thyroid issues, no kidney issues. I don't have any celiac disease or irritable bowel syndrome. I don't have any diverticulitis. I don't have any gastroparesis. I don't have any gastric ulcers. I don't have any COPD. I don't have any asthma. I don't have any of that stuff. But because I've been taking all these nutrients since I was 9 years old, I figured it out when I was 9. 20 doctors couldn't figure out why I was sick, and I figured it out in 3 days just by watching the animals.
Yeah, it's amazing how you got started as a kid so young. It's definitely divine intervention. At least that's
I agree with that one. Yes, absolutely.
I have one interesting topic that's big right now too is obesity.
Mm-hmm.
Would you mind touching on obesity? Just
yes,
and
sure.
Well, and all that.
Okay, well, doctors created obesity up until 3:00 in the afternoon, Monday, September 4th, 1882, on Pearl Street, New York City, in the bluff overlooking the construction of the Brooklyn Bridge, when Thomas Edison and Jonathan Leaves pulled the switch on the first commercial electric generating plant, there were no obese people in the United States. I mean, everybody was skinny. I mean, when I was a kid, I never saw anybody who was overweight. If you wanted to see a fat lady, you had to go to a carnival or a circus. Hubba, 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 $1 to see the fat lady. And then you'd see a 200-pound lady. But prior to that, okay, everybody's eating wood ashes. Well, when doctor says, eat more whole grains because you're getting too fat, you're eating too much animal fat, that's where you're gaining weight, you're eating too much animal fat. And people began to eat more whole grains and they began to gain weight. Because pica, have you ever heard of the term pica, P-I-C-A? Pica is a behavior where you just can't stop eating. I mean, you are craving everything, okay? If you don't get something to eat, you'll gnaw on your fingers, right? Okay, and that's why babies, when they came out with baby formulas, Enfamil, Similac, they used to chew on the rails in the crib. And so that's why they came out with that fiberglass sheath to put on there, because they would chew right through that rail. And they called it cribbing, because the babies were deficient in minerals. And people, adults, would gain weight because they never stopped eating because of pica, P-I-C-A, okay? That's why when horses chew on the top rail of their stall in the barn, that's why they call it cribbing, because they're having the same behavior as the babies, because they're minerally deficient, okay? And so what you have to do is get rid of all the bad foods so you can absorb nutrients. No fried foods, no processed meats, no oils, no glutens, no wheat, brown rhinos, and no sugar. And then I want you to have one healthy abandoned heart. You know, let's say you're 400 pounds. You need 4 healthy abandoned heart packs per month, a full dose of everything 3 times a day, and a dose before you go to bed. And then I want you to have 2 or 3 meals, a keto caramel meal. And of course, we have the, if I can find one here, we have the, I guess I'm not going to find one. We have the bars, okay? We have the bars, and we have the shakes. So 2 or 3 meals, doesn't have to be the same meals every day. But we want you to have a bar. I know I have them here somewhere. Oh, here we go. Okay. 2 or 3 meals a day should be a keto meal. Could be the bar, 1 meal, the shake, another meal. On weekends, you could have both meals a shake, or however, doesn't have to be the same 2 meals every day, depending on your schedule, because it takes a little bit of time to make the shake. It's very quick to just peel off the label and eat the keto bar. Most people can't even finish a keto bar, it's so filling. But you'll lose a ½ pound to 2 pounds a day by taking the 90 and getting on a keto regimen. Okay, and then your body will break down your body fat to make sugar. Okay, that's why you lose weight when you get on a keto diet, because you're forcing your body to burn fat. But stay away from the whole grains. They're your worst enemy when you're overweight. What do we feed cows and cattle and steers in the feedlot where you want to fatten them up to go to the slaughterhouse?
Grains.
You feed them great. You feed them oats and rice, and well, not rice. You feed them oats and wheat and barley and rye and corn. You feed them all those grains, and that's why they gain weight to go to the slaughterhouse. Okay, if you're just to feed them like an Asian, just give them rice and sweet potatoes, they'd be skinny.
Now, I've actually heard that the food pyramid, the My Plate, is very similar to what they feed livestock in order to fatten them up. Is that?
That's correct.
Yeah. It's crazy. And you can relate the pica, the cribbing, the cravings, the nutrient deficiencies to the cravings that pregnant women get.
That is correct. That is correct. Because all their nutrients are going to the baby. And if they're not taking in enough nutrition for themselves and the baby, that's why they just can't stop eating. And that's why they gain a lot of weight during pregnancy. They probably gain, some of these women will gain another 10, 15, 20, 30 pounds more than they should gain. Okay. And if they were taking the 90 essential nutrients, say for a year every day before they got pregnant and continued all through the pregnancy, that wouldn't happen. You know, when people just take prenatal vitamins 2 months into their pregnancy, who knows? The baby could have birth defects. They're in trouble. Okay, so we have to change this process here, and so we want to see if we can't get to do some Zooms and stuff with OBGYNs and gynecologists, and we can end all these abortions for babies with Down syndrome and stuff like that. And if you catch them early enough, I can reverse it. I can reverse even Down syndrome early in pregnancy. We did that with Lauren Knievel's, Evel Knievel's niece-in-law, with her son. And he was very severe, as detected by a 3-screen test, and also it's called a 3-screen test, and also an ultrasound. And they wanted her to have an abortion, and she called me and said, "I don't want to have an abortion. I'll take care of the baby if it's born with Down syndrome, but I want to do everything I can to reverse this." I said, "Well, it's kind of late. You got 2 weeks left in the first trimester, and so I can't guarantee anything." She said, "Well, let's just go for it." So we put her on the healthy brain and heart pack and got her on all the other stuff, the 90 essential nutrients. And sure enough, Noah Knievel was born perfectly normal, and freaked the doctors out because they still had, the printout of the ultrasound and the 3-screen test, which showed very clearly he was a very severely afflicted Down syndrome baby, and I reversed it. We do this all the time.
That would be incredible to be able to get in front of more OBs and midwives and all of that who take care of women, so that we can help reverse this, what I believe is a bigger pandemic than even COVID, with all the birth defects.
Well, it's a terrible, cruel thing that they do by not giving them these nutrients and fixing their diet for at least a year before they get pregnant. Giving a woman prenatal vitamins 2 months into her pregnancy is criminal.
It's too little too late, right?
Too little too late.
Right. And I can definitely attest to that, as with a 4.5-month pregnant wife. She hasn't had a single craving the whole time, and she's been on the 90 for a year and a half before she got pregnant. So,
well, there you go. Good job.
I don't have anything else for you, Doc. I really appreciate you spending time with us and sharing all of your amazing wisdom. I love getting to talk to you more than pretty much anything right now. So thank you for being here. If anyone else would like to say thank you or goodbye, or add in anything else at the end here, I'll open it up. But thank you again, Dr. Wallach, and I'll call you a little later, and we'll get you set up to talk to you soon.
Okay, don't forget www.drjwallach.com. Let's get the books and the CDs out, and you make a list of the people, make sure that people know who to get a hold of to become associates and distributors and all that kind of thing. Okay.
All right, we'll get your books and your CDs out. Thank you, Doc. We'll see you soon.
God bless you, Travis. Bye-bye.
Bye.